is Kyle, and you are back watching Knockouts and Three Counts, and we've got a familiar face on here with us this morning. We got the return of AB from AB Boxing News. How you doing, brother, man? We got a lot to talk about in this video.
Yeah. What's up, man? How's everything, man? And thank you for having me back on the show, man. And like I said, yeah, we got a lot to talk about, bro.
So the question that we're trying to decipher here in this video is Floyd Mayweather wilding, or, I mean, is this good for boxing?
I mean, we gotta look at it at different perspectives. You know what I'm saying? For number one, Floyd. Well, as a boxing pugilist, right? Like, do I have a problem with Floyd fighting Logan Paul in terms of a competitive standpoint? Yes, I do. I have an issue because we know that Floyd is
Arguably the
retired,
greatest.
but he can still compete with the best Errol Spencers of the world, the Manny Pacquiao's, the Keith Thurmans and whatnot. But then again, I don't really mind it because Floyd is really retired since 2015. Like, yeah, people are saying about the McGregor, but that was a spectacle. That was a show. Like, that wasn't really a fight for Floyd.
I agree.
Then the guy he fought in Japan, an exhibition. So like
that was supposed to be a kickboxing fight that didn't even end up being a kickboxing fight. It ended up being a straight up boxing fight. And before we get on to the Logan Paul thing, that was so frustrating, right? Because I actually had a buddy of mine, Darren Cruikshank, who was fighting on that card at Ryzen. And he's like, they made this big deal about this fight, and it was supposed to be kickboxing rules and all this shit, and then they changed it to boxing. He was like, we all knew he wasn't going to fight. We all knew he wasn't going to fight a kickboxing fight. Could you imagine what would happen to Floyd the first time he took a kick to the leg?
Not yet. I mean, it would have been a massacre. But at the end of the day, Floyd understands the marketing aspect, right. Because people would have been tuned in or hooked to, like, what, Floyd MMA? Really? He's doing kickboxing? Oh, what an actual kickboxer. But at the end of the day, Floyd is a genius, and he did it at the last minute to switch to boxing. So it's just a marketing. It's just marketing.
It's smart. Not saying it's not smart. Like, I don't blame him. Like, I mean, I've said it from the jump, because ever since James Toney fought in the UFC, there's always been the question, is Floyd Mayweather going to fight in MMA? I've said this from the jump. I will be the first to admit, if Floyd Mayweather had MMA gloves on, his hands that are already fast are going to be a problem in MMA. That being said, I feel like what would end up happening is the same thing that we saw with James Toney. Yeah, when you're on your feet, you're good. But then as soon as it goes to the ground, obviously it's a whole nother thing, which is why when that fight got announced, I was like, I don't see this going down as a kickboxing fight. And like you said, throwing that last part of it in there, in the fact that Floyd, whether you like him, whether you hate him, whether you whatever, his business acumen can't be understated. Like, I mean, if you look at it, the guy had the Conor McGregor fight. Now he's going to fight Logan Paul. He did the thing in WWE where he faced the Big Show in 2008 at WrestleMania. Floyd has made boatloads of money on being able to figure out, how can I use the name that I've already built and what everybody knows of me being one of the greatest boxers of all time. What can I do to use that, to further help me out? So I'm not mad at you at all for doing that. For me personally, my thought on Floyd fighting Jake Paul is that
Logan.
Oh, my bad. Why did I say? I'm saying Jake because Jake just knocked out Nate Robinson. He knocked him out bad that now I've got it on my brain.
Some people think that it should be Jake versus Floyd, but that's for another topic. But
it would make more sense. I mean, considering that he just came off that knockout. I mean, and at least for Floyd, if he was going to fight Jake, at least you could say, well, shit, he just came off a nasty knockout or whatever. Like, at least, you know what I mean? Where as far as Logan, he hasn't fought since the KSI thing, right?
Yeah, and I thought he won, besides the 2 bullshit points that the ref did on him. I'm like, they did him dirty. Like, he won that fight, man. You could show he was a sharper fighter. He looked like he belonged in that ring more than KSI that night, to be honest. Like, KSI is more
Oh, he
unorthodox.
definitely, dude, he definitely looked good in that fight, and it's not like a bad thing. But again, that goes back to I was just listening to the Aka Barak show on Sirius XM yesterday.
Yeah.
They had Chris Calero on there while he's in the barbershop, and he's talking about, and he was talking about, they asked him the same question that I asked you on whether or not it was disrespectful to boxing for Floyd to take this fight. And he said, in a lot of ways, he goes, I do feel it's disrespectful, because he goes, I'm not mad at, I'm not mad at the Paul brothers for what they're doing and making their money. But he said, to all of us that are out here grinding, when you got guys that got 2 fights and they're coming in getting paid millions of dollars, and you got other guys who ain't getting paid. And that goes back to something that we've talked about in previous videos. And I feel like that is widespread, not only across boxing, but MMA as well, in that,
Yeah.
I don't know, you would know more about the boxing pay scale than I would, but I mean, I would say that it's probably pretty similar in MMA, where it's like, unless you get to one of those big names, man, it's kind of hit or
Yeah.
miss on what you're making on bread. So I get his point on that, but on the same hand, I also see the other side of it, in that, say what you want about that Mike Tyson fight, but it brought a lot of eyes to boxing.
Oh yeah.
It did.
Indeed. It's like a not I don't want to say crossover, but it was like, bringing back that old audience that probably gave up on boxing, and they
Well, it
became
brought
back.
back all those Tyson's fans. And I mean,
Yes.
the Tyson fans, man, I mean, it's been widely talked about in boxing for
Yeah.
years that one of the biggest pay-per-view draws that boxing ever had was Mike Tyson. And it showed that even in 2020, you mentioned the name of him fighting, and that's going to do that. We're going to see if this thing with Floyd is going to do the same thing, which I'm sure it's probably going to.
Yeah, it's gonna break records.
I wouldn't doubt it at all, especially with him. If it's anything even close to what we saw with the production value and all that of the Tyson Jones fight, with the different performances, and honestly the way it looked, just the way it looked as a whole, I thought made it look good for TV. So if they can do anything even close to how that looks, I mean, I think it's definitely good for boxing. But then obviously, along with any fight, when this happens, the next question out of people's mouth is Floyd going to fight somebody else after that? So I guess my next question for you is, how do you see that? Like, okay, so say Floyd goes through this and wins like we all think he's going to. Does he fight again after that? Does he do another fight like this? And
He's gonna continue doing exhibitions no matter what, because at the end of the day, right? You brought up a good point about how the spectacle and the Mike Tyson and whatnot, right? Floyd, like I always say, Floyd is a businessman. Floyd, like that's why when you told me about Logan Paul, Floyd, I don't really have a problem, because Floyd is inactive. He's retired. Floyd only cares about his O and his money. So as long as it's an exhibition, like he's gonna continue doing it, because if it's the right price, he's gonna do it. You know what I'm saying? So, and then another thing with the whole, if it's hurting with boxing, I just feel like it just depends who you're talking to. Because I know a lot of people. I give you an example: Logan Paul, KSI, the people that were on the undercard, Billy Joe Saunders, Devin Haney,
right,
and all that, they benefited from that. They gained over 50,000 followers the following day. So I think it's just the right place at the right time. If you're placed on the undercard, you're gonna thrive a lot. Um, it is gonna be, it's gonna be hard in boxing if it's like a Jake Paul versus like Canelo. I think that would be the ultimate disrespect, and then the ultimate like like killing of boxing would be like if Floyd gets knocked out by Logan. That would be like
and that was the next
that
question, like,
that bro. If Logan Paul was to knock out Floyd, like, yes, all the Floyd haters would jump out of their seats, but like as a boxing, the sport of boxing itself, it's like,
you just lost one of
oh
your kingpins to a YouTuber.
yeah, like it's over. Like you can, that'll be the biggest, bro. That'll be like we
That would
could
be,
never.
I feel like if he loses, and that was obviously, that was going to be my next question for you,
Yeah,
is that, dude, if he loses, if by any way he fucks around and gets flashy and gets caught or any kind of anything, holy God, think about it this way: for all those guys he beat, right? He's 50-0. They'd be like, "Yeah, I lost to Floyd Mayweather. You lost to the guy who lost to a fucking YouTuber." Like,
Yeah.
and the sad part of it is, you know as well as I do that the attention span of fight fans, whether it's MMA or boxing, is
Yeah.
short. If he loses, it's not going to be, well, oh, it was just an exhibition. It's going to be, he got knocked out by a YouTuber, and that's
Yeah.
going to be it. That's going to be the fucking headline. There's not going to be well, he was 50-0 and this was just playing around. It's going to be, he knocked out Floyd Mayweather, period.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Uh-huh.
and here's the other question. Now, I'm not certain on this, so I'm asking you, being the bigger the
Mm-hmm.
boxing know-it-all on this one. My question is, so I was watching like we just said, Jake Paul fought against Nate Robinson.
Yeah.
I saw he had Jalen Love and a few of those guys in his corner. Now,
Yeah.
was Jake Paul training with Floyd and them to get ready for this? Or, I mean,
No,
because he's got some of Floyd's guys in his corner.
yeah. No, he wasn't working with Floyd. He was just working with Jay Leon and them cats. But like Jake mostly does his training camp in California. So I know Jay Leon was there. I know Zab, yeah, Zab Judah was
Sam
there.
Judah was there.
But that's the only name that I know that like gave him an advice, gave him a hand. But yeah, Jake he's plugged up in boxing. I'll tell you that much.
Well, and that was why I asked that question, because I could tell from the pictures they were showing of his corner and when he posted all the post fight pics and stuff. That's why when I heard the matchup and seeing guys like Jalen in his corner, I'm like, well, this is pretty interesting because,
Yeah,
those are some money team guys right there. And Jalen, a guy who Floyd has talked openly about a bunch in his corner, and now he's going to fight his brother.
yeah,
I mean, all in all, dude, I don't know. For me personally, I think it's good for boxing at this point, and here's why. It's definitely a big risk, I think, because it's a risk in that, like you said, if he loses, it looks very bad on boxing. But on the same hand, there's not been very many boxing fights in the last few years, like the Teofimo Lopez fight. That did good business for boxing. A lot of
yeah,
people were really excited to see that. But you and I both know that not every pay-per-view card that they put together for boxing is getting the same hype as, like, say, the UFC is right now. Like, if it's a big card, I think it a lot right now in boxing. It depends on the name power, which Floyd fighting period is going to do that. So I think as far as bringing eyes to boxing, it's good. But if he loses, like we said, it's going to be a problem. Here's the
yeah.
real question, though: how does this fight go? Do you think it's something like where when Floyd fought Conor, where he comes in and after Conor blows his load, Floyd makes him look stupid and he just tries to knock him out? Or do you think that Floyd might get a little cocky and try to play with him? Or do you think that there's a chance he might lose?
I mean, I looked at the McGregor. Um, you got to keep in mind that when they fought at I believe it was a 54, the super welterweight limit. When he fought the Japanese fighter, it was like at Floyd's weight, so it was already a disadvantage for the Japanese fighter because he had to pick up all that weight to meet with Floyd, and then Floyd just made him look like he knocked him out in the first round. So I think Floyd understands that if he was to get out Logan Paul as fast as he can, you know how much people in the internet are going to talk about it. You know how many blogs are going to talk about it. You know how
They're
many.
going to talk shit about it.
Yeah. They well,
Say
not
it was
just
a
about
waste.
it, but he 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 knows how to capitalize on he Floyd loves when people talk about him. So what better way for him to be talked about than knocking out Logan Paul right away? Thanks to get him out in the first round. I think that Floyd can do it. Number two, it's still a mystery. What's the whole circumstances of the catch weight? How many rounds? Is there going to be headgear on and whatnot? So it just varies. But if it's like what he did with Connor, it might be. I think first round he gets him out.
First round knockout. See, I've got no argument with that pick, but I also kind of have a counter thought to that. I also could see Floyd wanting that fight to go a few rounds for the simple fact that if it goes a few rounds, say the kid survives the first couple rounds, and Floyd doesn't put it on him real hard, people are then going to be saying, well, Floyd's fighting one of these YouTube kids and the kid's still in there. I could see him trying to drag it out a few rounds to get more people to watch it. But at the same time, I think, like you said, I don't really see a way that Floyd loses his fight, or at least he shouldn't. I think if anything, I think Floyd will probably knock him out. Like you said, the more I think about it though, with this being a YouTube kid versus Connor, like it's different. Like Connor, at least, even though he's an MMA guy, was a fighter. You're
Yeah,
not
yeah.
gonna just put him out that quick. Not no disrespect to Logan Paul, and I know that he trains, but there's levels to this shit.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm gonna be gracious. I'm gonna go Logan Paul gets knocked out in the third round. I
I
think
see.
what were
Yeah.
you say?
I said there's nothing wrong with that, man. I see. I can see it that way too. To be honest.
You get what I'm saying though? Something in me, I could see him trying to like play with him for a minute to try to
Yeah.
get it to go a couple rounds to get people to get more people who were maybe skeptical to, whatever. Especially because as we all know, whether you love Floyd, you hate Floyd, you're whatever, anytime the man comes out to fight, you can say what you want, but it does media numbers. Anyone
Mm.
can say whatever they want about the sideshow and the clown show that's been Floyd Mayweather and his camps and all the shit that goes with it. But regardless, it's got us talking, or we wouldn't be here on this fucking video.
Yeah, yeah. Definitely. You hit it right on the money, brother.
Well, I think that pretty much covers it for us with this Mayweather Paul fight. Hey, do you know if they announced any of the undercard or anything for that yet?
Um, as of right now, no. I know they're still working on a location, but I'm hearing it might be in California. I'm hearing Vegas, or I'm even hearing supposedly, I heard Saudi Arabia, but I don't know how true that is. But
It'll be Vegas.
yeah. I know it's gonna break it's gonna break records. It's probably gonna match. I wouldn't be surprised if it's the most pay-per-view buys of all time.
Of all time. That's quite the that's quite the statement on it, dude. But I wouldn't be shocked because again, say what you want, but the spectacle of this stuff, I feel like definitely is going to make people tune in to watch it.
Yeah,
All
it's
right.
gonna break.
Well, what were you say?
I said it's gonna break records because you're talking about two different avenues. You're talking about Floyd, who has conquered the boxing world. So you're gonna have his supporters and then those haters tune in because either they want to see him like lose, or
It's
then you
like
have
pro wrestling, bro.
rock with him. And then you got Logan Paul, who dominates YouTube world, the social media world, and all those casual, mainstream fans. They're gonna buy it. So it's gonna be interesting.
Dude, I couldn't agree with you more. Like I said, I feel like you've got the complete, like you said, the contrast of two worlds here because Floyd Mayweather, and that's why I think it works so good for him at WrestleMania 24 with the thing with Big Show because, like you said, you hit the nail on the head when you said Floyd Mayweather, people either love him or they hate him. They either buy a Floyd Mayweather fight because they want to see Floyd or they want to see Floyd get his ass beat. And they think, perfect example of that was when Floyd fought Ricky Hatton. Everybody was like, oh shit, Ricky Hatton might be the one to finally knock his fucking block off because he hit hard. And what happened? I'll never forget. I was sitting there watching it with my coach, and that hook that he hit him with, that check hook that sent him into the corner, was one of the nastiest fucking things I've ever seen in my life, dude.
Yeah, bro. Floyd is special, man. Like I said, I wish he would have fought. I wish he would have stayed not retired like from 2015 and kept fighting because I mean either way, whatever he does now, if he would have made a fight with like Errol Spence, Terrence Crawford, they would have been like, oh, Floyd is just trying to take their spotlight because he don't like that they're calling him the best fighter in the world. Like I don't know, I just feel like no matter what Floyd
No
would have
matter
done,
what he does, people are going to hate on it. But I mean,
yeah,
at the same time, at least with that fight, if he were to take either of the names you just named, like even if it was Crawford, Crawford is, being talked about all over the place because the guy's knocking the shit out of people. I
yeah,
mean, him versus Floyd, if nothing else, the thing is, like you said, people are either going to complain because he's taking somebody's spot, or if they do that fight, people are going to say, well, oh, he's too old and washed up and he's going to get beat up. So you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. But regardless, that man's going to make him some money.
Oh
That's
yeah.
going to be the long and short of it. Before we get out of here, though, I got one more question for you.
Yeah, let's do it.
So Clarissa Shields is coming to PFL.
Yeah, I actually knew about that like a month in advance.
Bro, I am hyped for this shit. I just interviewed Filthy Tom Lawler that's fighting for PFL in their tournament. I got to find a way to make that shit happen with her being from Detroit, because that's very interesting to me. What are your thoughts on her fighting in MMA, and how do you think she stacks up, being that I don't know, you may know better than I do, but I don't know how much ground or kickboxing experience she
Uh,
has.
well, she's definitely very serious. This is something she's actually talked to me for like, so I'm talking about 2018. I think that's one of her bucket list that I think she's trying to achieve. In terms of ground game and whatnot, she's been like working on it for like a year and a half. She's working with John Jones and them in that gym.
Yep.
I mean, I think she'll do really well. Number one, I think that her dominating boxing, I think it's very important, because if you look at, like, for example, Holly Holm, like, her main asset was boxing, and of course she could do a little bit of kickboxing and whatnot, but you know, her
Boxing was her bread and butter.
yeah, her bread and butter, as you see with Ronda Rousey. I think that if um Clarissa could, like, I don't want to say master, because I hate to use that word, because I think that even if you do 10 years, 5 years, or 2 years, I think that each day you could always learn something new in your craft. So
Agreed.
I don't want to say master, right? But I feel like if she could at least understand the basics of, I don't know, jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, I don't know,
She's got to
wrestling.
be able to learn how to stop a takedown first of all. She's got to
Yeah.
learn how to get up and use the cage to get her back against the cage and use the cage to get up if somebody puts her on the ground. So mainly the real question, like with what you were saying, the real question for her is going to be, can you learn to stuff a takedown? Can you learn to get put up, get up after you get taken down? And lastly, like we were talking about before we went on the air, I think the other thing too is she's going to have to get used to getting kicked in the leg, because
Mm-hmm.
if I'm an MMA fighter, I ain't going to hold you up. The first two things I'm going to do to her is I'm going to try to kick her legs out, so it takes away her power from her punches, because everybody can say what you want. She's from boxing, but anybody who really knows fighting knows a lot of your power comes from your legs. He takes her, if she gets her legs taken out, that'll change some things. Also, she has to learn how to not only stuff a takedown, but at least, basic jiu-jitsu. But as you said, I mean, when you're at a level like Clarissa Shields was in boxing, and she's training at Jackson Wink with the likes of John Jones, Holly Holm, and you just said the perfect one in and of itself. The fact that she trains with Holly Holm, when Holly Holm was like one of the blueprints to somebody being a boxing champ and coming over to
Yeah.
MMA, you can't really get too much better of a somebody to mimic what you're going to see in MMA fight, especially the person who, like you said, defeated Ronda Rousey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, all in all, man, there's a lot to look forward to in the world of boxing and MMA. Before we get out of here, man, tell them where they can find you on your channel and anything you got coming up.
Just YouTube channel. It's AB Boxing News, and then usually I put up all my boxing news, anything related to sports, on my Instagram, which is AB BOXINGGN. I know it sounds long enough, but that's my Instagram. And like I said, man, I really appreciate you having me on your show, man, and keep rocking, man. You're doing a great job, brother.
Hey, man, we appreciate you. Like I said, the links to AB's channel will be down there in the description. If you guys are checking this out, let us know what you think of this fight between Logan Paul and Floyd Mayweather. And hell, tell me what you think about that nasty ass knockout from his brother Jake Paul, and why he's scared and won't take the comments from the homie Josh Buckner and won't fight him. I don't know. I saw it after the fight, but hey,
Jake wants to fight somebody that's either in his, like, his level in terms of
Popularity.
Yeah, popularity. So
No,
Josh.
I totally get why he did it, but I laughed because what I'm talking about is Josh actually, I take that back. Josh has 2.1 million YouTube subscribers.
Yeah.
Okay. He fought on that Staples Center card, the last one. So Josh got on there and started calling him out as soon as he knocked out Nate. And he goes, "Why don't you fight somebody who's actually fought in the ring before?"
Yeah.
And Jake blocked his comments.
Yeah. No. You know what it is with with the whole Nate Robinson. Like, listen, we everybody could clown him, everybody could meme him and whatnot, but at the end of the day, Nate Robinson,
he had balls to get in the ring, dude.
Yeah. And you know what it is? A lot of people like to talk and they like to tweet on the Twitter fingers and whatnot, but at the end of the day,
they ain't got the balls to get in the ring.
Have you guys know how to train for a fight? Do you guys know how it is to lose weight? Do you like? There's a lot of things into going into the ring, not just going to
the
ring
mental mind fuck of knowing you're going in there to fight another grown man and there's millions of people watching it on pay-per-view.
Exactly. So was Nate Robinson nervous? You could tell right away. But the fact that I appreciate that he got back up, and I mean maybe the ref should have stopped it earlier, but the fact that he got back up, not once,
shows he's got heart. He wasn't trying to go out like a punk.
Yeah, and he unfortunately, every time he tried to start his offense, it was always the same thing. He was throwing the wild punches,
1-2s with his chin in the air.
Yeah, he's charging, and then Jake, as I expected, has more experience in him, caught him with a shot that Nate never saw, and it is what it is. But at least Nate got the experience, and I mean I would never make fun of him because I know that feeling of getting that ring.
Hey man, like you said, people that are talking shit are people that haven't gotten in a ring. It is what it is. The only thing that anybody can say is that he came in there throwing wild, but I mean, realistically, wasn't that what everybody kind of expected anyway? Like, I mean, you got two celebrities fighting. No offense. I mean, Jake Paul, you had a nice knockout, but realistically, nobody expected you to be like this boxing fucking genius either. The same as they're not expecting his brother Logan Paul to go in there and be some boxing genius. You can say what you want. The guy clearly had some training, but I'm going to say exactly what I said when we were watching this fight. What you saw in that fight was the difference between a guy who, even if it's only a little bit of training, a guy who's trained and a guy who ain't trained. There, you can be a good athlete, but not be able to box. And if you look at it, Nate is coming in there with his chin wide up. I feel like maybe he thought his athleticism was going to just carry him and that him being the naturally better athlete was going to carry him. I think if he comes back in, I'm not saying he didn't take this one serious, but maybe he gets a little bit, more in depth with his defense and all that kind of stuff. We'll have to see what happens. We'll see if he runs another fight. As it's been confirmed, Mike Tyson's doing his Legends Only League. So who knows if that means there's going to be more YouTubers on there. And who knows if that means that one day pretty boy Josh Bruckner will get his shot over there at Jake Paul. But in the in-between time and until next time, we thank you guys for watching. Peace.
Peace out, guys.